I'm Alex, Alexander Kuriaki.
Okay, cool. Today we're interviewing people ages 40 to 50 and students here that are younger, and to see the how social media affected you at a young age compared to them, because they didn't have social media at a young age like we did. So I have some questions for you today. How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
Excuse, how old are you?
I'm 19 years old.
Okay, you're 19 years old. And at what age was your first social media app downloaded, if you can remember, and what was the app?
It was Snapchat. I was 13.
Well, probably the first app I ever downloaded was Instagram. That was around 14 years old. I barely ever used it, but it was only until like 2 years later that I started using it more regularly. Most of us probably spend, like, for example, I spend like 6 hours on sometimes, but that's also because I am usually doing more stuff parallel to using social media, to the point in which it just blends in the background to everything I do.
Yeah.
I think I was about 31, and it was Facebook.
Oh, interesting.
I would say I do use social media every day, probably approximately like 7 hours. I would say I have to use it sometimes for like on-campus activities or like whatever's happening for the day, but for the most part, it's really not. It's only kind of in free time, but.
I use TikTok most often because I get caught in doom scrolling a lot, and so I'll just go on there, pass time, and then hours go by and I've just scrolled endlessly. So
I think I use it. Yeah, I use it pretty regularly. I use it for like news, especially, or like just to like waste time, like on like Instagram. I guess that's what I usually use.
I do use social media every day, unfortunately. So I engage with social media, I would say roughly, my iPhone tells me maybe somewhere between 10 to 15 hours a day. I mean, considering how many hours we're awake, just for the amount of work that I have to do on social media.
And what social media apps do you use most often and why?
I don't use any.
Any? Not at all?
I text message friends.
I do tend to use social media every day, and probably I would average probably 4 to 6 hours, and it's from like mindless scrolling.
Yeah.
And I do use it for my business, but I do not use it every day for my business. Yeah.
Did you notice that it's helped your business since before it came out?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Definitely.
Yes, I do use social media every day. I would say I go on Snapchat like mostly because that's like a main form of communicating. I don't know about how many hours, but I would say way too much than I should be going.
Actually, it was probably Facebook in 2005. And we were, kind of interesting story, we were the 4th campus to get access to Facebook. And to use it, you had to have a uri.edu email. And it was college emails only for like the first few years of Facebook.
I think that at this point it has a pretty neutral effect because I very rarely post, so I'm actually rarely engaging with people. Instead, I kind of just consume the media. That's specifically like my algorithm is mostly positive, so I don't have too many negative effects from it. But if I was posting often and like I used to, it would definitely be negatively affecting me.
I feel like, yeah, both. I mean, positively, like, I feel like whenever someone talks about sports, even though I didn't watch the game, like, I know all the news. Like, okay, I know, like, he lost or he won. Negatively, like, I guess you get, like, FOMO a lot, or I do, when I see, like, my friends, like, out or, like, at a party, and I wasn't there or invited.
Do you think that the use of social media has had a negative or positive effect on your life? Can you explain?
That's a great question.
So, if social media has had a negative or a positive, I would say it's a balance. So there have been times that it's been positive because yes, we're using it in what it's meant to do for productivity and engagement and all of that. And then negative is you get wrapped up in the social media and you go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing things that, I wish I was on vacation when you're like in work. So that doesn't work. So it's that happy balance, I would say, that I always approach social media from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see people posting things. I wish I was with them. Sometimes you can get like self-conscious on social media as well. So I think it has both effects.
Yeah. Do you think that you're usually comparing yourself to celebrities or your friends?
I would say like a little bit of both. Because like you see celebrities and that's like a standard, but then also like your friends and you just kind of want to fit in sometimes. So yeah.
But also it's a bad thing now as we get older because it's just really just addiction at the end.
Honestly, I think limiting posting is like probably what has helped me the most. I find that when I am posting and more engaged in it, I get kind of sucked into this, like how many likes am I getting? How, who's seeing my posts? Whereas like if you take kind of a backseat approach on it, it lessens the anxiety of it.
Okay. So that leads into our next question. Do you think that the use of social media has had a negative or positive effect on your life, and can you explain more into that?
I think it has definitely had both positive and negative aspects, but the negative aspects I definitely have been more noticing of anxiety and the fear of missing out and seeing that, everyone else is going to all these events and they're doing all this stuff and I'm just sitting home doing nothing. Clearly people don't like me, otherwise they'd be inviting me to this stuff, and that's just not necessarily true because that's just the facade people put on social media. Like that event that they've posted for multiple weeks only happened one time and you're out here thinking they're doing something every single day and night, and that's just not true.
For me, it's been pretty neutral because I'm not a user and I also teach leadership classes, and a component of that is wellness. And part of that is sort of study of wellness is integrated with social media use. So I'm aware of kind of the algorithms and some of the backdrops to social media. So for me, the recommendation for a lot of our students is to limit the use. That as much as it's some of the positives about keeping connected and seeing what's going on, having information, the negatives are algorithms feed you more of what you want. The comparison things where you're looking at folks and they call it artificial peer groups, where you think everybody's having such a fantastic time and it's not necessarily what the truth is. So there's a lot of negatives to using social media.
Yeah.
I think that social media has done good and harm. It would be my guess. I think that there's a lot of positives that social media has done, especially if you use the tools meaningfully. You can sort of curate and share your life with specific people.
I have taken a break from social media just to make sure I'm on my own mindset and not just trends or outcomes that are seen.
Yes, I have taken a break from social media, most definitely. Logged out, removed it from my phone because I knew there was a moment that I needed a break to focus on something. Mm-hmm. Because it's an easy ding, ding, notification and you want to look at it, but I would say throughout the year, I take at least minimum 3 breaks, and I'll do like a 30-day break or something of that sort, just to kind of refresh and center myself again.
Yeah, I have not taken a break from social media.
Me neither.
In 2020, when COVID first happened and hit the world, I feel like everybody was home behind their computers or behind their phones reading what everybody else was doing, and I felt like the world got very closed-minded and mean. People were posting really mean things about others, and it just was really making me feel upset, and I just felt the best way to not see that was to delete my accounts. So I did delete all my social media accounts for about 9 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a long break.
It was.
I've tried, but I get maybe like 2 days and I feel like I'm going a little crazy almost, that I've missed out on so much and people are trying to like message me and get a hold of me, and then it's just, I'm like, oh. Or I'm like, not even that they are, but I'm thinking in my head, I'm missing out on so much I need to go back on, and they don't last very long.
Yeah, I think over time, students have become more and more, I don't know if addicted is the right word, but certainly attached to it, to where if I asked you all to surrender your cell phones and put them to the middle of the table, there's always a couple students that actually will have jitters about it. So there's this physical connection to it that you can almost see is pretty unhealthy.
When watching online content, do you feel that you compare yourself, for example, how you look, what clothes you have, how many friends you have, to what others post?
Yeah, I think I still definitely will compare myself, especially seeing people who are just doing better overall, where I would like to be, like, in a city with a nice apartment. Like, there's definitely things I compare myself to. But then I kind of rework my thinking into using it as like goals instead of being upset about it.
When watching online content, do you feel that you compare yourself to others, or like what clothes you have, how many friends you have, or what others post?
Absolutely, I compare myself. Just upon posting on Instagram, I'm always looking at the number of likes, the number of comments, comparing it to other posts I've said and thinking like, this person commented on this post but not this one. Why not? What's different? Do I not look as good in this photo? Am I doing something that seems uncool? Like, I thought it looked great. Why isn't everyone else reacting the same way?
Yeah.
When I see other people on social media, I don't try to imagine myself in their position. Everyone has their own life and goals. I take it more as a motivation to go somewhere, do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only answer for that question of whether or not you compare yourself when watching content, the only way to answer that would be yes, you have to compare yourself when you're watching content. Now, whether or not that you allow that to affect you more deeply, I think is very individualized. Humans by nature are comparative creatures. And so you have to be comparing yourself actively. And that's a fine exercise, as long as you are able to distance yourself from it and not allow it to affect your mental health greatly.
I would say I did go down that route one time. So, the really pretty houses and they're all clean. So you try to, emulate that. And now we're seeing a difference. We're seeing women that are just showing you their dirty homes. And that's perfectly fine, because I love the realism of it. And I think that's what we're capturing now, is the realism of what life truly is. So have I fallen that as far as clothing comparison? No, I know my own style, and I look, but lifestyle, it has occurred in the past, and then you have to have like kind of a reality check with that.
Definitely.
Now you can get on social media and talk to whomever and get positive responses, supportive responses, or you can get trolled. So I think that students probably are walking around with much more anxiety than I did. I was anxious about certain other things, but I didn't walk around afraid that somebody was going to bully me, somebody was going to troll me. That wasn't even an expression back then. That's how language changes, because culture changes.
For younger generations and their use on social media, I would advise them to be smart with what they post and what they like, because other people will go back and look at that later. future employers, whoever, in the future will go back and look and see what you've posted, or stuff just comes out of the woodwork. So your digital footprint is a forever thing. You really need to be careful with what you're posting. As far as your mental health for the younger generation, I have kids of my own. They're not much younger than you, and I worry about them on social media, seeing what everybody else is doing and all the same questions that you asked me, like comparing themselves to other people and not being productive with their time. So, it's a tough thing to manage,
Sure.
and especially being I try to practice what I preach, but when my kids are sitting there watching me scroll and do the same thing, it's definitely it's a hard balance to find.
Yeah. What is one piece of advice you would tell younger generations that use of social media and its possible effects on your mental health?
I would tell them social media is fun, it can be a great thing, but don't let it become your life. Your life should focus more on what's right in front of you rather than what's online. That be who you are, and know that just because you are who you are doesn't mean everyone else is going to be themselves, and that's okay to be confident in your own self.
Awesome.
One piece of advice I would tell the younger generation and how social media affects their mental health is to take a break, which means take a pause and have that reality check. Social media is just one snippet of time, 2 seconds of something versus in comparison to 24 hours in a day. So have a check and balance with that. That's really what I would say. And it's a comparison thing, and just realize that it's product promotion. And it could be a lifestyle, but you're promoting something. A lifestyle, product, and whatever it can be. So the idea is always to picture things as best as possible. So you have to really take things with a grain of salt when it comes to social media.
One thing to be said is social media should not be used from when you're way too young compared to what is used now. We all hear the terms brain rot and all that stuff, but there's a reason why it happens. A lot of kids are being exposed to social media way too early, and we're seeing the effects now in which they relate everything to social media, but they don't quite live the life that we do. So that's why we see some of them going in a very steep decline of how we used to deal with everything to how they deal with everything.
I would say one advice to give to younger people would be just be careful what you're posting on social media, because you don't know who's reading it and where it's getting posted to other things, and you don't want to say something bad that you might regret later on.
I think that it would be important for the younger generation to know that it's okay to not be where the other people are that you see on social media. It's not, someone's life is not better just because of the way that they present themselves on social media. There's other things going on behind the scenes that we cannot understand. And so I think it's important to remember that it's not everything you see on social media is real, and to take a step back and not compare yourself to every little thing you see.
Yeah.
A piece of advice I would give to younger generations about social media is, yes, it's fun, but it's not how you should depict your life. You live your own life through your own lens. You're your own person for your own reasons. It's not just for social media. I know it's very popular right now and it's in a peak, but it's not the person you are.